Everybody, sorry about that. So, good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome you to our webinar this afternoon. I'm happy to see all of you here, and we're getting close to the end of um, our collaboration with PAHO. I'm very happy this afternoon for us to have with us. We have our team members from PAHO all here. I'll probably have them introduce themselves shortly. But also we have the team from George Washington University. Dr. Dyer and his colleagues are also here with us today. And we want to talk today about personal resilience. We have here in preparation for the hurricane season, but it is really about personal resilience to cope with any eventualities, anything disasters that we may come upon. We're hoping this hurricane season will be a quiet season, but personal resilience is really about being able to cope in the face of adversity. And so today we want to do a refresher. It's a refresher for persons on the call who had participated in the training some 2 years ago. But I know that there are a number of you on the call who are also new, who would not have been in those trainings. And so, Dr. Dr. Dyer, to make sure that we're all on the same page by the end of this training. So without further ado, I think what I'll have, can we ask all the participants to mute your mics, please? Actually, I'll just mute you all. So I'm gonna have Dr. Caetano is gonna give some brief remarks. Yes, she will. And Dyer will then introduce his team and we'll move forward with the presentation. You can see the agenda on the screen. But we're hoping as a part of the presentation, we want it to be interactive. So we will be calling on persons. If you don't volunteer, I will volunteer you because we do want to have some feedback and interaction today. Okay, so welcome, and I hope that you find the information you received today useful. Dr. Caetano?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Samuels. I was looking at a presentation that we have, which I'm not going to do a presentation. That's not my role. But maybe just to quickly go over the previous sessions that we had. This is not this one here. And I will just quickly duplicate here is easier. Okay, so maybe just as a reminder, Dr. Samuel, thank you very much for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you. And from PAHO is Dr. Andrew Vernon that is here with me, and as well as Ms. Natalia Toscano. And I think we also have our monitoring and evaluation, Ms. Dr. Julie Xavier joining us. It's really a pleasure for us to be part of this project. And just as a reminder, what you're seeing on my screen is the three main objectives of this project. So just as a reminder for people who were with us before we started the project and the ones who are joining us. Why am I showing this? Because I would want to make sure that it is when we were thinking of doing this project, especially because of the challenges that we have in the Caribbean, and not only the Caribbean, you know, when the hurricane season affects the United States, you know, affects all of us actually. It's very important that we understand the importance of building capacity. When we talk about MHPSS, we talk about disaster management, we talk about, the importance of community resilience. And of course, there's a component of, if we're doing this correctly, that we want to also be able to have some lessons learned, there is a component of monitoring and evaluation to see whether what we're doing has an impact and what has been the impact. So part of this project, the first part, when we talk about capacity building, it was capacity building not only on learning more about what is mental health and psychosocial support, but at the same time, for healthcare providers, for people who are in the humanitarian response, they learn how to take care of themselves. They learn what it is that it means to be, to pay attention to your own mental health. So I'm going to stop here. As I say, I just wanted to bring you back to the importance of this, what we have been doing when it comes to this project, which is then to make sure that when we talk about capacity building, we're talking about, the importance of self-care. And this training today is responding to that first objective, but it was not the only objective. We had two other objectives that are also as critical and as important as the other one. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then this will give me an opportunity to introduce our facilitator, who from George Washington University, who from the beginning of this project has been with us, Dr. Alan Dyer. Dr. Dyer, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cayetano, and thank you very much, Dr. Samuel. And we have with us today Dr. Carl Quisnell and Dr. Jeremy Safran, who have been part of the training programs that we've done in person in the BVI and on the webinar and previous webinars as well. If I can, let's see, figure out how to share, okay, share screen, and then desktop. And then BVI. Okay, can you all see that now? The orange BVI?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. And if I make it.
You need to make it as a presentation. Yeah, fabulous. Thank you.
Okay, so it's loading. It says it's loading. There it is. Okay, so this is personal resilience in preparation for the hurricane season. As Dr. Samuel said, hopefully this next hurricane season will be a mild one. We know there are hurricanes every year. Never before had there been anything like the hurricanes in 2017. We don't know that there will never again be hurricanes like that. And so the whole question is, how do we prepare for that? Both in terms of building back better the physical infrastructure, but the emotional and community infrastructure as well. So we've spent some time with you previously, those of you that were part of the previous workshops, looking at personal factors in mitigating stress reactions. The objectives for today's program to appreciate the evidence base for a resilience approach, develop resilient strategies for lessening stress, and to consider the relationship between health, mental health, and public health. We want to have, as Dr. Cayetano said, this to be interactive. And so I've posed 5 questions for you to be thinking about as I review some of the as we review some of the basic skills that we've focused on before. And one of the things that's happened, we've had another disaster. It wasn't another major hurricane. It was the global pandemic. This wasn't something that we were prepared for, but it was something that happened. And in the monitoring evaluation that Dr. Julie Xavier did, many people reported, and I hope some of you are here today and can comment on this, that the workshops help prepare people for dealing with the pandemic. as well, and I'll say a few words about that. But just to think about your own experiences in relation to the hurricanes, in relation to the pandemic. How was it stressful? How did you cope? And everyone can comment on that. And Dr. Samuel has threatened that she will call on people if you don't volunteer. I want to make it as easy for you as I can to volunteer. So here are 5 questions. What were the key takeaways for you from the resilience workshops, for those of you that participated in a previous resilience workshop? What steps did you follow from the hurricanes to get back to normal? How has the pandemic impacted your life? And what challenges are you facing in emerging from the pandemic? Many of my patients have commented that they got used to living in the pandemic, and now going out in public again is a challenge. Going back to the office is a challenge. And what preparations can you and your community make to be ready for future hurricanes, future climate disasters, and maybe even unexpected disasters? And certainly that includes personal disasters of the sort that occur in all of our lives from time to time. Okay, everyone take a deep breath. Here we go. And just a reminder, please fill out the evaluations at the end of the session. That's very important for us, for PAHO, for the government of the British Virgin Islands, of the government of the Virgin Islands, which is the British Virgin Islands. Okay. There. Breathing is something that comes quite natural to us, but it's also a skill that we can learn. And I came across this children's book in my grandchildren's bookshelf called Breathe Like a Bear, 30 Mindfulness Moments for Kids to Feel Calm and Focused Anytime, Anywhere. And Breathe Like a Bear, and there are various other of these exercises, and we'll do some exercises today. But I have this picture, which I really cherish, of my grandson's first birthday, and his mother is teaching him to blow out the candle. Now, blowing out the candle is an exercise that we can use to be mindful of our own breath. So, everyone, and then, so breathing is a skill, and it's been fun to watch Wendell, named for Wendell Berry, by the way, work on his breathing skills. Now here's the picture of the group that was present at the first workshop in February of 2019. Here you'll see Jeremy sitting beside me, and Carl was not present at that one, but he was present at the September one. Jacqueline and Vanessa were present at the first one, but Jacqueline not the second one. And hopefully this will be something, and hopefully some of you are here and can speak to your own experience from that. The important basic lesson is that you can't take care of others unless you take care of yourself. And the reminder is the lesson that the flight attendant gives us. We all remember this from the days when we got on airplanes. For me, I haven't been on an airplane since we came down to the British Virgin Islands in September of 2019. That was the last time on a plane. Although I will next week be on a plane going to Maine, and then later this summer we're doing a family vacation in Wyoming. So this is sort of like the cicadas emerging from our underground subterranean confinement and ready to go. But the important lesson: take care of yourself before you take care of others, because you can't be as useful as you need to be. So the 4 psychological skills that we taught in the resilience curriculum are psychological first aid, which are the basic skills that you don't need to be a mental health professional in order to master and to practice. And then mindfulness-based stress reduction, which we spend a lot of time working on, hope modules, and compassionate listening. And maybe I would ask Jeremy and Carl just to say a couple of words about hope modules in terms of what are the key questions that need to be asked, and how even in a 1-minute presentation or 1 minute focusing on it, there can be a refresher or a reminder of hope modules.
Sure. Hope module is something that was always really big to me and something I use in a lot of, especially consultation type of situations. And I'll just say that it's something that can be used by anybody. And it's the idea behind it was also what was called like a 15-minute consult. So it's quick. And reality of it is you're not trying to come up with something that might be helpful for somebody. I use it with myself. I use it with other people. Think about just what has helped you get through a difficult time in the past. And everyone's going to have something that they've gotten through at some point. And usually it's, I got busy. I reached out to family. I got more involved with the church like I did. And you say, okay, how can we incorporate that into the here and now? Because things that have worked in the past will work again. Sometimes you have to get creative. Situations, locations change. But that's the idea of is to find something that was able to give someone strength in the past during another difficult time and trying to figure out realistically how you can involve that into the here and now.
So Jeremy, what are the key questions that one might ask someone to elicit those experiences?
Yeah, so it's difficult, I think, to sometimes reflect on upsetting or particular lows or difficult times that we've been through. But actually, the first question that I usually start out with was, have you ever been through, a time that was as difficult or similarly difficult to what you're going through right now? Or, can you imagine, when did you feel your lowest? Like, what was the most difficult time that you've been through? And so that's a hard question to reflect on. And I think often, when we get through those difficult moments, it's, I think, a pretty natural thing to say, I want to put that behind me and move on and look forward. But the purpose of this is really looking back and evaluating when you went through that difficult time, you got through it to now. And so then the next question is, what helped you get through that difficult time? Because, the person is there talking to you. What helped you get through that difficult time that you had in the past? And then as the listener, keeping your ear attuned for particular sets of strengths that you hear from that person's story. Because likely if the strength that they utilize, the skill that that person utilized during that previous really difficult time, if you hear it, that's going to also help them in the here and now. So Carl was kind of laying them out, but if you hear somebody that says, oh, what I did is I told myself, my grandmother went through such a difficult time herself, so I can do this. Then what you really hear is this is somebody who, in their current difficult time, can really rely on their own identity of being a strong individual. And also maybe from that you can hear, okay, family is important to them. So maybe reaching out to family as well could be an important thing. And then the next step, and this is not so much a question, but also sort of brainstorming and talking with the person, is how can we use those skills that you've had previously in this now new stressor that's going on here and now?
Great, thank you, Jeremy, and thank you, Carl. So we can all think back to the hurricanes of 2017. We can think back to the pandemic and use those particular examples. And I want to set this up to sort of imagine those so that pretty quickly we can shift from the theoretical to talking about the experiences you've had and how these experiences, these skills might be useful. So Julie Xavier, thank you, Julie, for this. Did a magnificent monitoring and evaluation focus groups, which was done virtually in the middle of 2020. And I've extracted some of the comments from this as an example. The question would be, if we did these resilience workshops and they proved useful, how would we know they were useful unless we had another serious hurricane? And as it turns out, we had another serious disaster, the pandemic. And so several people commented on how the skills that they had learned in the resilience workshops helped them with the pandemic. And I hope you can see this. I won't be able to see the things on the right, but generally trainees reported that the workshops equipped them with skills needed for self-care. I always treated myself last as I focus on others. It's difficult when you are a caring person and there's so much time for everyone else. I'm trying to remember to give myself some me time. One manager noted that it gave them time to breathe, to slow down, and focus. They also acknowledged that the pandemic provided a perfect opportunity to test and apply newly acquired skills. Another noted that in response to the COVID crisis, they observed a high level of awareness and participation in social media using platforms such as Facebook to share psychosocial support materials, identify specific health needs, request specific interventions, and respond to each other. Another mentioned setting up and managing a psychosocial support group among church members. Another actively something community resilience groups. One counselor touched base with her own counselor every 2 weeks. Another enjoys checking in with other trainees as part of a mutual support system. A clergy member takes 1 day off each week. So all of these, I think, are resilient strategies. And one of the themes is the importance of community, the importance of others, that resilience isn't something we generally do by ourselves, but we rely on others in various ways as we can to promote well-being. This is a slide that we interacted with Dr. Torresienza presented, the emotional highs and lows after a disaster. And thinking of a disaster, and disasters may be ongoing disasters, but using Hurricane Irma Maria of 2017 as the event, then there's an emotional low, a heroic phase where the community comes together, but disillusionment as the rebuilding takes so long, and then triggering events that may bring back painful reminders. Anniversary reactions 1 year later, the same time of the year, the same kind of worries, the same kind of memories, and then working through the grief, reconstruction and new beginning. This is another prompt for discussion, and a question that could go along with this, and we can turn to the questions sooner rather than later, is where are we now? Because then we had the hurricanes of 2017, the anniversary reaction 2018, the reconstruction going through 2019, or all along through there, and then the pandemic hit, and the pandemic hit very quickly. This is from that family vacation I mentioned, and I want to call attention to the turtle because I'm just going to say something about the reptilian brain. The reptilian brain doesn't have a lot of cortex, a lot of thinking part of the brain. It just reacts. So the first thing we did, we went over to Peter Island, is it, where the lovely scuba right across from Tortola, and we had lunch and we did some scuba diving, and there was this turtle that was going down and it was coming up to take a breath, and it would go down and it would come up to take a breath. And we watched it many times, and then eventually we began to say, well, I wonder how long it stays down, this turtle. It turns out this turtle goes down for 11 minutes, and then it comes up and takes a breath. Well, the other thing that I noticed in reflecting on this as part of my own experience with the resilience workshops is I thought about that turtle again and the importance of taking slower, longer breaths, and not 11 minutes. That would be too much to expect. But to be mindful of one's breathing and to take slow, relaxed breaths rather than hyperventilating. So these are some of the ways of calling our attention to our own breathing. And I invite you all to just be mindful for a few seconds of your own breathing. This is called square breathing, where you inhale, hold, exhale, relax. Inhale, hold, exhale, relax. And these are little mini relaxation techniques that can do this. Is called square breathing, or some mantras, or taking mini sabbaticals, like the clergy person that talked about taking the day off each week, that there be one day that is really a day of rest. And for a clergy person, it's not likely to be Sunday if they work on Sunday, or Saturday, the day that other people may think of as weekends. The other is starfish breathing. And when we did this before, Carl explained it. So I'll invite Carl to explain it again.
Yeah, I love starfish breathing. I actually am surprised that it took me so long to hear about starfish breathing, but it's super easy. I think it's super easy to visualize. And just to add to what Dr. Dyer had said before, I think even just showing that aspect of deep breathing yourself, even if you're not asking someone to, can a lot of times we mimic each other, we mirror each other. That can also just really help in certain scenarios. But today, starfish breathing, very easy. If I could, I just ask everyone to hold up your hand. We're going to start at the base of the thumb. And then as you move your finger, use your other hand to put at the base of the thumb. As you move your finger towards the tip of the finger, I want you to inhale. As you go back down the other side, exhale. So there's going to be 5 total breaths. Kind of go at your own speed. Try to make it a little bit slower if you can. And then please feel free to follow along or go at your own pace. So let's ready and begin. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you doing that with me.
And it was nice, Carl, to have you pacing it, because my inclination was to do it a little bit faster, but it was good to do it as slow as you did. So thank you. And this is the deck of our apartment building, and it says just breathe. So I thought that was a reminder. And then the blue spots, you know, you can get little stickers and post them around your house, and let that be a reminder to you if, you know, to take a mini and just take a deep breath. So resilience, just briefly, is the capacity, the positive capacity of people to cope with stress and adversity. And these are some of the factors promoting resilience: and optimism, facing fear, moral compass, spirituality, mental exercise, physical exercise, role models, social support, flexibility and acceptance, meaning and purpose. And I'll skip over that and that because I wanted to show you the turtle again, and the alert brain, where thought, action, and emotion are impinging on the what in neuroscience we call the brain stem, or the reptilian brain, and all of this is a mammalian evolution. And then this is the amygdala, which this is a stressed brain, an exciting brain, and it sort of shoots messages up which may interfere with thinking, whereas with the deep breathing like the turtle is doing, or like Carl just showed us, that this is top down, that we think of things, we process emotions and work through thoughts, actions, and emotions. And with that, why don't we stop here? I'll stop sharing with the invitation to address those questions that I posed earlier. What were the takeaways from the resilience workshop? How have you applied those? What is the impact of the pandemic been, and the emergence from the pandemic, and then anticipation of future disasters, or specifically future climate events like hurricanes.
Dr. Dyer, before we go into our colleagues, I'm really looking forward to, we have 45 people, Dr. Samuel, that have joined, which is fun. I mean, that we are all connected. Sometimes I don't want to say 40 people, we said devices. It is possible that you have 2 or 3 people from one device. So at least we know we have 45 devices, to this session. But one of the great things that when I was looking at Dr. Carl with, doing the breathing, I remember, and I don't know if she's with us, Dr. Jacqueline.
Mm-hmm.
So she was explaining that also to complement that, she said, okay, take your pulse and write it down. And so after you write on your pulse, then, then we started to do this breathing. I really remember that. And it was so interesting that after you have done the breathing and you take your pulse again, how it decreases. And this is an excellent, I always remember that, this is an excellent opportunity, I think, for all of us, that sometimes when you're in all this anxiety or stress or concerns or whatever it is, that there is great value on this breathing, and I don't think we also stop to understand what it does to our body. So I just wanted to remind you that. And then I remember she did this mindfulness. Jeremy, remember with the was it the she had asked Dr. Sam, or somebody had bought
The raisins?
raisins. So, and it's just moments like that were so, talking about teaching moments for so great and relevant in terms of helping you to clear your mind. And then once you're calmer, it becomes easier for you to make decisions, especially when there is a heightened of stress. So just wanted to add that point before I forget. Thank you.
Yeah, points well taken. Because just like I was tempted, I wasn't attempting, that would sound deliberation. I was tempted to go faster than Dr. Quisnell was leading us, setting a very nice slow pace. I was also tempted to eat the raisin more like a wolf would eat it and less like, savoring it and observing it, one little raisin. Yeah, those are meaningful experiences. So thank you for the reminder there.
I was just thinking I don't know if anyone has kids or works with kids, but it can sometimes be difficult for them to do some of the deep breathing exercises, even though they can be really helpful. And so one of the techniques that I found really helpful that I learned with kids is you just tell them the motion of breathing in through your nose is like you're smelling a flower. So you take a deep breath in like you're smelling a flower. And then you take a big breath out like you're cooling off a slice of pizza. Because every kid can do that. So they go.
Great.
And you can walk them through. And whether it's starfish breathing or the square breathing, then you can go from there.
Thank you, Jeremy.
So I think, Alan, you're wanting one of the participants to tell us how they've used.
Can we pull up that slide, Dr. Dyer, so that they can see the questions?
Yeah, good idea.
Just as a reference.
While he's pulling that up, I'll just go into just a little bit. Even Dr. Kaitan was talking about it. When you're stressed out, when you are anxious, it's try as we might. It's impossible to tell your brain to slow down or tell your heart to stop beating so fast or your blood pressure to lower. One of the few things, maybe the only thing you can really control is your breathing, but the body tends to follow itself. So if you can control that, then those other things start to slow down as well to get you out of that fight or flight, which is why breathing, it's talked so much and it's so important and just so universal.
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Reverend Celestino. I guess if I have to say one thing, well, I have more than one thing, but the key to this that I took away from the resilience program or the workshop is definitely, I would say, mindful doing and mindfulness for me, because ministry and dealing with humans is so nerve-wracking, but still a place of compassion, and I wouldn't give up what I do for anything. But it is only when we were doing that breathing, I recognize how much I actually practice this. I didn't recognize I do it so, off the bat kind of thing. And I'd say this in this way particular. I went through my own particular personal trauma. I guess we'll be recovering from surgery. And I had breathing just like that. I just automatically was kind of bored lying down, and I got an asthma attack, and I was home all alone, and I was a bit scared, but I was mindfully breathing, and I know that I had to clear my air passages, and I know that breathing was essential, and I know if I didn't breathe for a little while, what would happen, and I know all of breathing. And so, I mean, for me, it caused me, that's why I recognize that anxiety and breathing is the, I guess, the cure for calming anxiety. And so what I would say, what step do I look forward for from the hurricane to get back to normal or any pandemic? For me, getting back to normal was more about helping other people more than myself, definitely, and get them into a balanced space of operating and yet caring for one another, even as we go through difficulties, because the difficulties don't ever stop. But we have to be conscious of how we share compassion to one another. This pandemic last year for me was worse than now. Because at first I was just thinking why people just can't stay quiet. They just need to stay still and just be inside, and let this take its course. And so for me, because I have respiratory issues, the wearing of the mask was like, why they don't keep quiet so I don't have to wear this mask long? But I recognize now I can wear a mask for long hours, take time to breathe and take my fresh air moments, and even take my own position for my own clearing of my mind. So I really appreciate this pandemic that caused me to think, as well as it prepares me in the midst of the stresses of life not to be so freaked out. And right, and my challenge was in this pandemic was getting back out. And when the church opened back, I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to get close to the people. I didn't want to do anything. I thought this virtual space was safe and everything like that. And then I realized not everybody was coping well, and some people need interaction of some sort, and safety was the best way of coping. So that kind of reminded me of how I was willing to help other persons in the hurricanes to get back to normal. So I would just say that I had to face my own anxiety, then to be able to, so in this particular pandemic, I had to self-care first and then help others. Because I just, I was just looking at my own situation, and the whole societal issues of BVI and the health, how much machines we have and everything like that. So I was thinking of, self-preservation. What preparation can, well, for me, I would definitely take that approach where care for yourself first, and then you can care for anybody else. I definitely believe that in this hurricane season, the first thing we should definitely do in the midst of the pandemic is ensure that all our necessities, our essential areas are covered. And once we are there, then we can help to strive to support anyone else. There will come times that we will have to really go, but self-care for balance is the best way for us. So I think I appreciate this more than I ever understood until we got this recap today. So yes, it has helped me in ministry. I'm actually really a better person, less freaking, and a more calm person. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, good. So, but hopefully So we have some persons on here who may not have participated in the training. So hopefully by hearing Reverend Selena's thoughts about how using the tools actually helps her, we then, those of us who are new to this, by the end of this session um, would make the commitment to using the tools that we get shown today. But for myself, as a practitioner, the hope modules, I find, Jeremy, I mean, we heard the questions earlier, but the hope modules and using those modules now, even more so now, because I think a year later, some people are getting to a place of, because persons expected that by now everything would be fine and back to normal, and it's not back to normal. So I find that I'm having to use the approach using the hope modules more with persons now. So that for me as a participant facilitator in the workshops has been really useful. Anybody else like want to share briefly? Sasha, are you there?
Hello, I'm here.
Hi, Sasha.
Hi there.
Key takeaways that you want to help us with?
So key takeaways from the resilience workshops, I would say, were just how important resilience plays into the community, and just how important it is to make sure that we have plans in place to facilitate certain disasters and different happenings that can take place in society. What steps did you follow from the hurricanes to get back to normal? That is a good question. Steps that I took would have probably been to just take things one day at a time, and trying not to bite off more than I can chew, because I think that has a lot to do as well with keeping mindful, and taking note of what needs to be done. How has the pandemic impacted my life? The pandemic helped me to look at, again, priorities, and how my life was running before the pandemic, how it had to run during the pandemic, and how different I wanted it to look now and after the pandemic. This was in literally every area of my life, from work to school, recreation, a healthy lifestyle, everything. What challenges am I facing in emerging from the pandemic? Challenges, I would say, especially as the Sister Island coordinator, would be keeping track of everything that needs to be done on Virgin Gorda, Anegada, and Joss Van Dyke, and being able to balance that with my life and what's happening outside of work, because it always seems like there is something that needs to be done. No matter how much you get done, there is more that still needs to be done. And even some of the breathing exercises that we did this morning, there's one that I use now when I start to feel a little bit of anxiety, is the 4-7-8, I think it is, breathing exercise. I found that to work really well. I find myself doing it a lot when I start to feel overwhelmed. What preparations can you and your community make to be ready for hurricanes this year and beyond? I've been meeting with resilience teams. This afternoon, I meet with the resilience team in Virgin Gorda. I met with the resilience team in Anegada on Saturday, and I hope to meet with the one in Jost Van Dyke on Wednesday. But we're really working on preparing, making sure that households themselves are prepared. So making sure that they have their water, their supplies, making sure that they have their important documents stored in a particular way. Then we want to move on to the island itself. So there is actually still some debris from Hurricane Irma in bits and pieces of the island. So we have some pinpointed locations, and we hope to get them cleared. And we just also want to make sure that the mental health of the communities are acknowledged and addressed, because we didn't even we got off of Irma, we made it through, and then when we start to see some sunlight, we got hit with COVID. So we really think that some people really haven't made haven't gotten back to where they want to be mentally. I think that some people are on edge even right now, so you have to even be careful how you speak to people. So we just want to make sure that we can get some sense of normalcy. Like this morning, I saw a beautiful picture of about 25 yachts in Great Harbor, Jost Van Dyke, and the community itself started to feel good, because over there had been like a ghost town since the pandemic, and Jost Van Dyke is a tourism totally island. So just one day at a time, helping people how we can, and making sure that we're ready in case of any disaster. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Over to you, Alan.
Okay. So does anyone else want to comment or any summary thoughts?
Dr. Dyer, if I could, I just wanted to thank both the two women who talked, and Sasha, you had said something that made me think a lot about psychological first aid, and there were several components in there of what you were talking about too, and I think it's something that we can all, we can all use, especially when there's a humanitarian effort. That a lot of, caring for yourself, knowing what you can do and what you can't, and respecting those limitations, knowing predicting some questions that may be asked, and expecting people to ask you questions, like when you're going into those situations, and then really getting to know the area, the community, from like a micro to macro level of wherever you're going to be serving, can go a long way. And just, some of that stress comes from not knowing the answers to certain questions and not feeling like you can help, but we're all individuals, and as strong as we are, we're never going to be as strong as a group. So knowing, trying to predict some of those questions, learn that information early, and then know who your groups are going to be. There's a lot of components of psychological first aid in there that I really enjoyed hearing.
Good. Thanks, Carl, for picking up on that, and again, to echo the appreciation for the comments, and then for all of you, these things that we can be reflecting on as we move forward. Best wishes for a mild hurricane season. We know there will be hurricanes, and hopefully they won't be as bad as we might fear or anticipate. The other thing that occurs to me in terms of my own life, having been down there, is thinking about the global threats in terms of what we can do in terms of becoming climate activists. And one of the things I find myself being more conscious of, how easy it is to go from a room and leave the light burning. But as often as we all do that, that means that more energy, more plants have to produce more energy that may not be necessary. And then what things can we do to pull back on our consumptions that aren't working well for the planet as a whole? I think one of the things in terms of a global pandemic is just that it's global, that we're all dependent on each other to do the mitigation things that we can do to get vaccinated, to maintain social distancing, to wear masks, and to be preventative and mindful of not only our own needs, but the needs of others. And that goes for community disasters, which affect the whole planet, some more adversely than others, in particular locales, but in the sense that we're all interdependent in all those important ways. So the focus on community is very important. And you've all picked up on that in one way or another. And these are questions that we can be mindful of at several levels, at the physiological level, at the psychological level, at the community level. So thank you all very much. Thank you for being here today, the 45 plus of you. This was really very nice. And we look forward to better times ahead and times when we can be together again.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Dr. Caetano, you need to unmute.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Dyer and colleagues. And it's always good to see you and your team, Dr. Carl and Jeremy. I'm so pleased that you made this hour pass so fast. I look at the time, it's almost 4 o'clock. So I know that everyone is quite busy, and so we don't want to keep you. I really appreciate hearing from the colleagues from the, is the Pastor Selena? And then from the other colleague, I think it's so good that you did the reflection, because again, these are moments that when we talk about preparedness, and when it's preparedness is what we want to do, understanding the impact of this adversity on us and what we need to do. I was particularly glad too that Dr. Carl mentioned about PFA. As you all know, and Dr. Samuel knows that, we have the PAHO virtual campus for public health has a virtual course, a self-learning, is self-paced, learning the PFA, psychological first aid course. Now, the thing about doing it, which we always recommend, and is that you can access it, it's free of cost, it's, then you can do the training. But it will be good if once you do that, maybe contact Dr. Samuel, because what we like to do is that once people have completed their training, the PFA training, we also like to have a follow-up. And Pastor, this may be something that you may want to do with your church members in terms of if they do the training, the psychological first aid training, which is online, anytime they can do that. It takes about, maybe they take an hour every day. And so within a week, they can complete the training at their own time because it's self-paced. But then we do another 3 other trainings with them, with people who have completed that online training, just to introduce them to what is the pyramid of intervention from the MHPSS psychological support. And then another training, go over again the importance of self-care. WHO has a publication on doing what matters in terms of stress. So we also go over, the teaching, the training from the tool, from that tool, because the importance of self-care, we are always learning from that. So we also do that kind of thing. So Dr. Samuel would be able to, once that, if our colleagues from BVI are interested, it's something we can support them. So again, thank you very much. I don't know if there's any other burning question. We have a section on chat. I don't see anything on the chat. Yeah, is there any? I'm going to, Dr. Dyer is leaving at 4. So thank you very much. We all are leaving right now. So thanks, we appreciate it.
Bye, everybody.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Dr. Samuel, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Please complete the link to the feedback form is in the chat. So can you guys please do the feedback? Andrew, can you replace it with because the way you have it placed there, you can't access the link that easily.
Okay.
So everyone, please do the feedback link, and remember, self-care is key. Okay, part of resilience. Make sure you do the self-care, care for yourself first before you try to care for others. And for persons who may be interested in doing the psychological first aid course, you can contact me and we can send you the link to the course. The link to the feedback is in the chat. Please do the feedback before you leave. Thank you, guys. Thank you,
Thanks, everyone.
colleagues, for being here. And everyone else, everyone have a blessed day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dr. Samuel. You too. Have a blessed day. Thank you. Bye. Okay.